শুভেচ্ছা সবাইকে স্বাগত চলতে চলতে অনুষ্ঠানে আজকে আমাদের অতিথি ঢাকায় ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট গিবসন Excellency, most welcome to our show Cholte Cholte. How are you?
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Excellency, we know it's a program of some people who are very successful in their life, and we want to discover you in this program. So we would like to start from your childhood. Can you recall it?
I can recall my childhood, yes. I was born in a very rural part of the United Kingdom called Wales, on the south coast, in a very small town, which was quite isolated from the rest of the country. And you have to remember, in those days, we didn't have the internet, we barely had television. So it was quite a sort of isolated, lonely upbringing. But what was good about my childhood was there was a good education available and good local libraries, and I was able to teach myself from many, many books and gain ambition, gain a thought of what I wanted to do in the world. And so I spent the first 18 years of my life there, going to school, very small school close to my house with some good teachers. It was a very happy childhood with a loving, close family, a very supportive family.
Sporty family?
Supportive family.
Okay.
And then at 18 I left to go to university.
So I want to know about your parents and your primary education or first education.
Well, my primary education was in a very, very small school indeed, with hardly any pupils at all. And it was a basic education. Being in Wales, it was half in Welsh, but I'm afraid since then I've forgotten all the Welsh I ever knew. My parents, my father worked in the steel industry as a chemical engineer, and my mother was a housewife. In those days, most women did not work. Most women stayed at home, looked after the house, looked after the children, so my mother did that. It's very different nowadays in the UK, where most women work, but not then.
So from the very beginning of your childhood, do you have any plan that you would represent your country all over the world, you would be a diplomat? Or did your parents want this kind of profession that Robert will not be staying with them, he will stay far away from them?
I think there's a lot of similarities between Wales and Bangladesh, in that my parents wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor, the sort of professions that most parents in Bangladesh want their children to be. But I was very clear, I wanted to work overseas. I had a desperate desire to travel. Because where I lived was so small and so isolated, I wanted to explore the world outside that town. And so I was very determined, whatever I did, it would involve working overseas or a lot of travel.
So by planned, so being a high commissioner or being a diplomat, it was your early planning of your life. And why this kind of plan?
Well, it wasn't. I think when I was a child, I didn't know what a high commissioner or a diplomat was. I'd never heard of them. It was only later in life I came across this idea and thought, that suits me. No, my idea was to be a scientist and
Scientist?
A scientist, yes, that was my idea.
How many languages you know basically?
Well, I think there's a difference between how many languages you've learned and how many languages you know. Well, I've learned 4 languages, English, Welsh, French and Arabic, but I only speak English and French well these days.
Okay. So you don't know Bangla?
Not very much, no.
But you know, obviously you know a little bit Bangla, as you are staying here for at least more or less 7 years.
That's right, yes, 7.5 years. I first came in 2002 and I stayed 3.5 years, and then I left, but was a frequent visitor to Bangladesh. I came back every year to see friends, and because I liked the country, and I was delighted to return in 2011 as High Commissioner.
So we want to know about your Bangladesh experience later. During your career, obviously you faced some tough position. There are some complex situations, and being the ambassador or being a diplomat, you have to handle with different kind of critical things. Especially our people is very much interested to know about the Middle East crisis. Can you recall any crisis when you were in Middle East?
Yes, well, I was posted to Baghdad after I left Bangladesh last time. And it was at that period when the Iraqis had just managed to have an election, but were unable to form a government. And so I spent the first sort of 4 months of my tenure there trying to help the Iraqi political parties agree and form a government, which they eventually did. And then the next year I spent with the government trying to rebuild the country. It was a fascinating experience to have a country that's been torn apart come together again and try to rebuild as a coalition government, as a country where everybody could live, where the economy had to rebuild and everything had to rebuild. Meanwhile, of course, there was a huge amount of infighting going on between the Sunni and the Shia factions in Iraq, a lot of shelling of Baghdad, a lot of shelling of the Green Zone where I was living. So it's a very high, tense, high-risk situation, but a fascinating job to be there with a new government, creating, in effect, a new country.
And you have successfully done it. And at the time, obviously, there are a lot of bombing and other situation.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes.
So you are living here and you are representing your country. So to Bangladeshi people, you are the United Kingdom. So Bangladesh people find United Kingdom among you. So can you say what things are the major issues between Bangladesh and Britain?
Well, the major issues, I think the major issues are the people. Because we have over 500,000 people who live in Britain who are of Bangladeshi heritage, and we have several tens of thousands of British nationals who live in Bangladesh, and so there's huge links. And most students, I'm very happy to say, a lot of students from Bangladesh, a lot of people, older people, have done part of their education in the UK, and therefore they've built those links, they've built that relationship up, and that relationship still stands today. And I sort of really appreciate when I go around the country and I meet somebody and they say, oh, I went to university in the United Kingdom, I went to school in the United Kingdom, and then we have something in common. We can talk about things, we can remember things, and it's a great feeling. So it's the people-to-people links are, to me, the absolute key, most important thing about Britain and Bangladesh.
I think this is called people-to-people contact in diplomacy.
Yes, yeah.
Robert, we have to take a short break and again we talk with you. দর্শক ছোট্ট একটা বিরতি নিচ্ছি, ফিরছি কিছুক্ষণ পর, আমাদের সাথে থাকবেন নিশ্চয়ই। You have a piano in your drawing room.
I do.
Would you play with it?
Friday, when I have no work and it's a bit quieter, I try and sit down in the mornings and play for a few hours.
স্বাগত আরেকবার, ফিরলাম বিরতির পর। কথা বলছিলাম ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট গিবসনের সঙ্গে। রবার্ট, we have talked about your early life, about your diplomatic life, and you are almost 7 years in Dhaka. In between there were some break for 1 or 2 years. So we think you know Bangladesh very well, and you have already told there is a big relation between UK and Bangladesh regarding education. Can you please explore what kind of opportunities for Bangladeshi students for their higher education in Britain?
Well, there are many opportunities for higher education in Britain, because the UK prides itself on the quality of its education. And it's not just the exams, not just the qualification itself, it's the experience of being in the UK and the access in the UK to a whole panoply of history, of culture, of science. So many Nobel Prize winners work in UK universities, so many good teachers, so many innovators in their fields. So huge opportunities in the UK. And we want to attract the brightest and the best. We want people to look at the UK as a place for education, tertiary education, to develop their all-round skills, not just their academic skills. And indeed, I'm very pleased that last year the number of overseas students in the United Kingdom increased by 19%. 19%, which is a huge boost to our education system. We value them greatly. And from Bangladesh, there's generally between 3,000-4,000 people at any one time studying in the UK, which is really great. I'd like to see it between 10,000 and 12,000 if we could, and I try to encourage that. And I'm very taken that when we have the O&A level awards ceremonies every year, how many Bangladeshi students get top in the world with their results. It's amazing, the quality of the education in these private schools that do the O&A levels, and the application, the diligence of Bangladeshi students to get those amazing results. And these are people we want to encourage to widen their horizons, widen their academic experience by going to the UK and benefiting from it.
You have visited many districts, so you have the chance to meet with Bangladeshi people, from one farmer to the top prime minister. So how do you evaluate the general people of Bangladesh? What's your remarks regarding the people of Bangladesh?
Well, I've been lucky because I've managed to visit all the 4 corners of Bangladesh, so to speak. And I've benefited from seeing the effect of the wide development program that the UK and all our partners have in Bangladesh. And what strikes me from when I was first here 14 years ago is the general improvement to the day-to-day lives of very poor people in rural areas. And most now have access to fixed sanitation, to clean water. Electricity is much more widely available than it used to be. And of course, the digital revolution, which is going all across Bangladesh, gives every access to mobile phones, to the internet. And this is making a huge difference to the lives of people in Bangladesh. And I think it's partly the policies the government has followed, but also partly the partnership they've had with the development institutions to achieve that.
So obviously these are some syndromes of a developing country for Bangladesh, and you know, Bangladesh government has set a target to being a middle income country within 2021, and according to Millennium Development Goal, Bangladesh is really doing tremendous good. So are you hopeful that Bangladesh might be a middle income country within the target times?
Well, I think it has the potential to be so, and as a partner of Bangladesh, we want to help them achieve their goals. But as you know, economic forecasting is a very difficult science, if an art rather than a science. It is very difficult to look ahead that far and say how big the economy is going to be. We can't do it in the UK. We can do forecasts. We can't do it. But certainly, you know, the UK wants to help Bangladesh reach its goals, and we will continue to be partners in Bangladesh as long as we are able to do so.
Not very earlier, Bangladesh was known to the world as a country of disaster, as a country of flood, as a country of poor people. But now the image is not like this. Now it's a country of resilience. Now it's a country of the people who are fighting against climate change, who are fighting against a lot of problems. So what are if right now I ask you, what are the major challenges of development in Bangladesh?
Well, you've hit on one of the major challenges, because regardless of how well we develop the country, Bangladesh is still an area prone to climatic disasters, whether it be big floods or typhoons or earthquakes. So a lot of our program goes to helping poor people in the rural areas of Bangladesh build up a resistance to these events. And when they do happen, they can bounce back. So if you go down to the south, where the typhoons are likely to hit, you'll see concrete houses, cyclone shelters, and the development of crops that are more tolerant to saline, so that they can be grown very quickly. But as you've seen everywhere in the world, you know, the climate effects is more than man can cope with in many cases. So all we can do is try to build up resilience and to help people who are affected by climate change bounce back. We have a very good partnership with Bangladesh in the international climate change negotiations, and the big conference will come in Paris at the end of this year. And what we've managed to do, because our partnership with Bangladesh is so close, is work together. It's a powerful voice for one of the most developed countries in the world to work close to one of the least developed countries in the world and say the same things. And that's a powerful message, a powerful advocacy in the climate change negotiations.
I want to know one personal thing. You have a piano in your drawing room.
I do.
Would you play with it?
I would like to say I played for an hour every day, but I'm afraid I'm generally too busy. But on a Friday, when I have no work and it's a bit quieter, I try and sit down in the mornings and play for a few hours just to keep my technique going. But it's very hard when you're working a job like this to find the time.
Okay, Robert. Again, we have to take a break and come and hear other stories of your life.
Okay.
দর্শক, আবারও একটা বিরতি নিচ্ছি, আমাদের সাথে থাকবেন, ফিরছি কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যেই। You like Bangladeshi food? Which food you like most?
I like naan very much because I'm a great bread fan.
Naan?
Yeah, yes.
Naan
with naan on its own. Yes, I like it. I'm not so keen on dal, but I like kebab.
স্বাগত আরও একবার, ফিরলাম বিরতির পর। কথা বলছিলাম ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট গিবসনের সঙ্গে। রবার্ট, we know 7 years is a big time. You know Dhaka almost like me. So what's your experience in Dhaka life?
I mean, apart from the traffic.
Traffic? Okay.
Well, again, I put my experience back to 14 years, and you're stuck in traffic quite a lot, and it was quite frustrating because you couldn't get back to your desk to work. Because now with modern technology, I can work just as easily in the back of the car as I can at my desk, so it's a lot less frustrating. But even when the traffic's bad, Dhaka is a fascinating, bustling city. There's always something to look at, something to see, something to marvel at. So even now, after sort of 14 years, I still look out the window and enjoy what I see and marvel at how people get on with their lives and how people cope with the sort of challenges of the traffic and the crowding in Dhaka. It's great.
What about Dhaka food? You like Bangladeshi food, and if you like, which food you like most?
I like naan very much because I'm a great bread fan.
Naan?
No, yes.
Naan
with
grill?
naan on its own. Yes, I like it. I'm not so keen on dal, but I like kebab and things like that, and rice. I like biryani. So I enjoy this very much. But my favourite food is Italian food, and I could eat pasta all day, every day, very happily.
So like our rice?
But like your rice, yes, yes.
Do you like rice?
I do, yes, yes. I like to have a varied diet, and I try and eat something different every day so it doesn't get boring.
So during your tenure in Dhaka, you are, if we count the time, you are the senior most diplomat now in Dhaka. So you have seen different ups and downs of Dhaka and Bangladesh. That is sometimes political, sometimes Rana Plaza, sometimes some other danger for the Bangladesh. So being the diplomat, how could you manage this kind of situation? And
yes, well, Bangladesh as a whole has faced many, many challenges since I've been here. I was away during the prolonged caretaker government period, but I came back shortly after the last election. And as we know, they were very challenged before the last election, and now this year we face many challenges again. And it's very sad for me that yet again, Bangladesh should be facing this disruption, the violence, the horrific violence we see every day. But to me, it's a case of building up confidence in people. Just trying for everybody concerned, not pointing fingers at any one side, but just to try to reduce the tension and build up confidence in the system. Because Bangladesh has gone through so much in its short history, but it still is a democratic country. It still prides itself on its human rights policies, on the rule of law, and I want to try and keep that as much as I can, and that's what I encourage, to reduce the tension, build up confidence, and try to move forward.
So in Dhaka you have a family. Your family means this area, your High Commission. And many staffs from someone from British, someone from Pakistan, many ones from Bangladesh are working together. It's a kind of family, and you are the leader of this family. So how you could manage this big family?
Well, it's the British High Commission to you is one organisation, but in fact we have 8 different government departments working here in Bangladesh. And my role as well is to try to make sure those 8 departments work together as one unit, one HMG, Her Majesty's Government, that's what we call it. And that's what I try and do a lot when I'm inside the building. And then when I'm outside the building, I'm of course representing Britain. And we're lucky, I think, in the modern world. We work very closely with other partners. So we work very closely with our colleagues from the European Union. We work very closely with our colleagues from the rest of the Commonwealth. We work very closely with the United States of America, and with Japan and with China as much as we can, to try to make sure we all speak together and work with one voice.
So that would be perhaps my last question. What are the major challenges between you and us, or I mean Bangladesh and UK? Well,
between me and Bangladesh, there are no challenges. Okay. This is my second home. This is where I'm happiest when I'm not in the UK. And this is my challenge now, as I will leave at some point in the near future, I don't know when. My challenge will be to look for some way in which I can maintain my links with Bangladesh, because I don't want to just walk away and leave this country. I've invested 14 years of my life in this country. I love it. It's my home. I want to remain engaged. So I have to look for, my challenge, look for a way to remain engaged with Bangladesh after I leave at some point.
Okay. So you are almost 36 or 7 years in foreign service.
That's right,
almost
yes.
36 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So obviously, due to your job, due to your responsibility, sometimes you have to leave it, and you have to leave your job also. Then what would be your plan?
Yeah, my plan would be to find some activity
Social activities?
I'm not sure yet, but some plans, activity that would allow me to enjoy living in Britain, because I haven't lived in Britain very much since I started work. I've lived mostly
Because you
overseas.
don't want to live. You want to travel.
And also to try to live in Bangladesh for part of the year and maintain the close friendships I've built up with many Bangladesh people in all walks of life. And that's my aim. That's what I want to try and do.
And this is the very last question. I want to know your dream of Robert Gibson, which has not yet come true. What's your dream?
My dream, well, I think I've articulated my dream. My dream is to spend the rest of my life involved in some way with Bangladesh, but still living in the UK and living in Bangladesh. Some way I can link the two passions of my life, Britain and Bangladesh, and keep them together. That's my dream.
Thank you, Gibson, for your valuable time. দর্শক, কথা বলছিলাম ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট গিবসনের সাথে। শেষ করতে হচ্ছে আজ। পরবর্তী পর্বে নিশ্চয়ই দেখা হবে। ভালো থাকবেন সবাই।